Aaron Park. I am the manager of housing and homelessness programs at the Thunder Bay DSAB. So that's the District of Thunder Bay Social Services Administration Board. So my main role is to manage a number of provincial funding envelopes that are given out to the 47 service managers across Ontario, of which DSAB is one. With this funding that the DSAB is provided, we have certain parameters around how it can be used and what its main intent is for. So the homelessness prevention program funding is basically to assist those that are at risk of homelessness to stay housed. It's also to assist those while they are homeless, and also to fund solutions to ensure that those that are homeless currently become housed down the road. And then the other two funding envelopes are more around our community, or what used to be referred to as social housing. It's now community housing. So that is your rent geared to income or affordable housing programs. And though that funding is for the development of new units, but also for the funding of current not-for-profit community housing providers for maintenance and repairs that are needed for their facilities, because the buildings are usually quite old, that because the investments happened a long time ago. So that's the nutshell. I see the main issue, I think, that should be focused on, or that I've been focused on, is around homelessness. We do have a growing and much more visible homeless population currently. So if you've been around Thunder Bay, you'll notice encampments that you didn't notice before. So people actually sleeping outdoors in tents and makeshift shelters in a number of places around the city. And basically our goal is to move people from a state of homelessness to housing. And what we're seeing that Thunder Bay has really lacked in the past, and we're working to address, and more needs to be done in this area, is transitional housing. So a lot of individuals that are currently homeless have a multitude of barriers to becoming sort of housed in a stable way. Like independent housing would be a challenge for them. Mostly it's there's mental health issues, there's addictions issues, and there's also just not experience having lived in a a stable sort of independent way. So transitional housing bridges that gap. So it's a place that's usually 24-hour supports that are on site, but they have their own sort of like, they all look very different, but a lot of transitional housing have, you have your own space, your own kitchen, your own everything, but you have those supports there that will help you. Meanwhile, you could be also working to address those other issues of, addictions and mental health, and become just more stabilized as a person all around before you then graduate from a transitional facility into just a general unit kind of thing. So that's really what Thunder Bay has been lacking for a long time, is any sort of transitional housing, and that's something that needs to be addressed. That's a good question. That's a very good question. And something that we're trying to understand more of. We are actually teaming up with some researchers from Lakehead University to do a study, basically asking people exactly that. Like, so what we have found in the previous studies on homelessness in the city of Thunder Bay is that a lot of individuals are not from Thunder Bay that are here homeless. So a lot of it is transitory, so it's migration. But what we're trying to understand, that's sort of always been the case. We've been finding through studies throughout the years, but now why is it so much more visible? Like there's actually space in the emergency shelters and some of the other programs that are designed for the homeless, but we're still seeing encampments. So like, why are people drawn to that environment instead of an emergency shelter type environment? So unfortunately, I don't know that answer, but that's something that we are working to hopefully find out. I think the impact is really on the individual, that is homeless. I don't think anybody wants to be homeless or chooses to be homeless. So and I mean, there's also impact on broader services as well. So like the police and the EMS receive increased calls, and that's harder on their budget and their time and their staffing resources when you have more calls coming because of homelessness. But the impact on the individual is huge. Like it's hard to you know do the things that you want to do to grow as a person when your concern is where you're going to sleep that night. So when you're in a homeless situation, so by addressing homelessness for that individual, it's that first step towards improving their entire life, basically. We also find like once somebody is homeless, like that is often what like leads to addictions and mental health issues and stuff like that. It's not always like, sometimes it's prior, like it's because of mental health and addictions that you become homeless, but it's also sometimes everything's fairly good and then you become homeless and everything really caves in. And of course, like using substances is a way to like kind of deal with that, the reality you're in, but it obviously makes things harder for you, but in the long term. But yeah.